today. I've had this here for a couple of weeks. This is for some more local tractor collectors. I don't remember what model this is off from. If I find out, I'll put it in the description. But anyway, this is a cylinder head off from, I believe it was a Case propane tractor. Rare stuff, collector's items. At any rate, it has got a broke-off stud here that holds the manifold on. And then they were also hoping that I could skim this because it was, you know, that broke stud leaking around the end and it tends to erode the face bit. Doesn't want to seal good. And then also, just the bottom of it showed a little bit of evidence of seeping at the head gasket, a couple spots, and they'd like me to just skim this. So here's what I got in mind to do. I want to start off by laying it flat on this face, right on the cylinder head surface, and extracting that broke stud and decking that face off so that I can then stand it up and skim this. So the first thing we're going to do here is just take a good scrubbing, polish, and cleanup pass on here. Probably I'll actually take a sanding block to it, seeing as we're going to be refinishing it anyway. I'm not super worried about rounding off around ports and stuff because we're going to be skimming it. I just want to make sure there's no high spots on it, so when I clamp it down on my table, it's really genuinely flat. So that's what we're about to do. Alright, here we are. What are you working on, Wiggles?
I'm making a bird feeder.
Alright, Wiggles thinks we need a bird feeder, so he's chopping up these old skid pieces and preparing to create a bird feeder while I'm over here working on this head. So here's some banging and pounding in the background. It's Wiggles' fault. Alright, let's get back at this. Normally I'd be a lot more careful about doing this. I wouldn't just go after a head surface with sandpaper like this, because you're almost certain to be rounding the edges off slightly. Like I said, the only real point of this, make sure I don't have any big boogers or big carbon deposits or something on it that it's going to sit on. I want to just set it on my table and know it's flat. So anyway, I think the one other thing we're going to do here is I'm going to do the same thing to this surface after I scrape it off of it. And the main reason there is I want to be able to run an indicator up and down this to square up to it. And that'll be much easier if it's already cleaned up. Some of what I'm doing here is just getting this junk off from here so that I'm not spreading all this rust and crusties on my machine as I'm cutting it. At some point here we're just going to call it quits. I really just need one good surface to run my indicator down, and that's probably going to be at the top edge here. So that's good enough for what I'm doing. I just need to run there. You can see all this pitting and stuff around here. That's from where the hot gases were escaping out there. That's really what we want. This isn't going to take much to clean up. I would be surprised if we take 20 tops. It might be 10 thousandths, just strictly skimming that face. So anyway, we've got what I need now to put down the boring mill. We got a clean face there to lay it on and a good edge there to indicate down. Doing pretty good. So obviously I need to hang it off that edge a bit so that I can skim across there without fear of nicking the edge of my table. So let's get this set up. There, we're getting somewhere. It's interesting, you see it's not flat, you see it drop off pretty aggressively, so at some point here I'm going to have to just pick a happy medium, like this is why we're machining this surface. So what I'm going to go for is just zeroing it out near each end, and the middle is going to be whatever the middle is going to be. I think I'm going to tighten that down some more there. So this is the broke stud. when I look across here, these three are in line with each other, those two, and these two. I'm going to go find something, I don't know, probably a steel pin. I'll have to see if I can find a dowel pin or something that fits in there. You know, it'd probably be, what are they, 3/8, so about a 5/16 dowel pin ought to be like the pilot for that. And I'm gonna get in there and find the center of that hole by just feeling it in there. Then I'm gonna zero my y-axis, so now I know I'm on the right height on the y-axis. And then I'll probably measure and see if this looks like it's some common number, because these old things especially, they're almost always to fractions that are predictable. So we're going to check that in a minute, and if we come up with, you know, that being 16 inches, then what I'm probably going to do is get zeroed on that, move over 16 inches, and then eyeball it. And if that's like, yep, that's the middle of that, we'll start drilling that stud out. But we get set up for that next. All right, so I would say that was definitely 15 5/8. So I think we'll go with that number initially as we start pecking that out and just see how that looks then. So there's a 5/16 dowel pin, and it is snug. That's exactly what I want. So we're going to stick that in here. Tighten her down. And now we're going to start getting lined up on this beastie. I think we can do it, but boy is that close. I forgot about that. I can't get to the center line of my table. I think I'm an inch above it or something. So we got her, but boy is that nip and tuck. So got my digital readouts zeroed right there. Now we're going to come across here to 15.625 and see how that looks. Definitely looks believable. All right, we're going to go get center drill. Get center drilled a little bit, and then I think we're going to go in there with a left-hand drill bit and see if by any chance we can get that to walk out. I'm going to go in there with a pretty big center drill because I don't want it to deflect at all. I really want it to stay on center and not try and follow that thing. I wonder if that's an optical illusion and there isn't actually a bolt broke off in there. Now we got to get a pick and dig around in there. That'd be funny. That's hilarious. So this was brought to me as a broke off stud needing to be extracted. Admittedly, it looked like one. I think it was just missing the stud for so long that rust and junk had built up in there. We're going to try running a tap in it, and assuming it cleans out and looks decent, we're going to go straight to facing this thing. That's hilarious, guys. Perfectly good threads in there. Look at that. That's the funniest doggone thing I've had in quite a while. Alright, well, let's get switched over on our tooling here and set up for some facing. anyway, so it's got, according to the indicator, 4 thousandths of bow in it. I'm zeroed here and I'm zeroed here, and then it's low 4 thousandths in the middle. Now, one thing that I don't quite know what to make of is I've run up and down across the end here, and I'm coming up with 5 thousandths worth of out of square. I can't get a feeler gauge under it anywhere, 1.5 feeler gauge, so we're gonna go ahead and just cut it. I don't quite know what the explanation for that is. The only way I would possibly do a better theoretical job of it would be if I got set up on this face, but it's hard to clamp. The tractor engine itself does not care if this head isn't dead square to how it started. I'm just a little baffled how I ended up that way, because like I say, you guys saw me, I sanded the face of this, put it flat on the table, milled the other face. So anyway, who knows? It may be that this thing's got more curls and cups in it than what I realized might be the explanation. Either way, we're going to take a skim across it, see how she looks. Confident that we're going to end up having to take some more before it's all said and done. Just very much doubt that this is going to actually clean up, but got to start somewhere. One thing that I'm really seriously watching here is I really want it clean up all the way across the bottom, because this is all the sealing surfaces. Up here is just where the push rods come through. My cutter isn't quite wide enough to get this one pass. What I'm most concerned about is getting this stretch one pass. If there's any kind of a ripple or imperfection, I want it up at that edge. So it's like on my next pass, I'm actually going to have to drop the head a little bit, because I'm not quite clean enough all the way to the edge the way that I've got it right now. Generally speaking, though, it's looking pretty good. Alright, so we've made one pass across there where I touched off to 5 the edge. You can see we're not quite clean enough over here in the middle. And you see the imprints from the fire rings around the edge of it. Especially here, she had a pretty good low spot. We didn't touch any of that at all, so it was something over 5 in the middle that was gone. So what I've done is decided to take another 5, and we're taking another pass. So that'll be a total of 10 thousandths off this head. And I'm certain that will clean it up. And that's not an outrageous amount to remove. So at any rate, that'll be one pass across. I've also dropped it a bit because it was leaving a little bit of a step this edge. So I dropped it 50 thousandths, came in 5. We're cutting across, then I'll pick up and cut back across, and that'll be the end of her. A lot of banging happening over here. How's it going?
Got both these sides on it now.
Nice.
Now I just got to get the roof on and a little bit of space right here where I can put the seat in.
Looks good. Yeah, he's been chopping these skids up, banging stuff together. All right, well, we'll go back to our project. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. She cleaned up completely in the middle, so all we've got now is just this little bit. Like I say, my cutter's a little too narrow, so we'll just have to come up here and take a buzz back across up there at the top. Other than that, though, looking just dandy. Alright, so we came off the end, raised the head 150 thousandths, and now we're headed back across to get that little bit on the top edge that we didn't get. And then hoping that we don't end up with any kind of a step, because now we're not quite reaching this edge, so we'll have to see what it does when we get on across. All things being even, it should come out okay, but that's why it's really nicest to have a big enough face mill to completely straddle the surface. But In this instance, I think we'll be fine. I do have that 12-incher, but I have to mount it straight on my spindle sleeve. It's quite a bit of monkeying around to set it up. Didn't really feel like this project warranted that. So. Anyway, we'll see what it looks like when we get across here. If I get any weird ripples or anything, what I'll probably do is just keep running it back and forth across the face without changing my depth until I get rid of any weird ripples. But we'll see what it's like when I get to the other end. Alright, so it's interesting, cutting that way I didn't get quite as nice of a finish. It was basically the equivalent of a spring pass. You can see an ever so slight, I cannot feel it, but you can see it. So I'm going ahead, I dropped down in right here, like this is a low spot in the casting here, you know, where it dips down. I didn't quite clean that up completely, so I've dropped it back down and I'm just making a cut back the other way without changing anything. I think what that should do is get rid of this funny little bit of roughness. I don't know why exactly I got that cut in that direction, but we're going to see what it does after a pass back this way without changing anything, and then should be about it though, I would think. Yeah, that's looking and feeling just beautiful now. That's going to be it. We're going to be done after this pass. So call the customer up, tell them they can come get it. Yeah, we're really not cutting anything off this point. The bit of roughness, for some reason it like picked up some little tiny burrs in the surface. Basically we're going back through and just polishing them off in there is all we're actually doing at this point. But I just don't like to have to stone across the head surface if I can help it after a nice fresh cut. I'd like to just have it done with that pass and not have to risk rounding off around any forks or anything playing with it. So I think this is going to be it. I'll give you guys a look at it once we get across this face and get her unclamped. Alright guys, well, there she is. So you can see some interesting stuff. Like, see these? I got these funny, they're like tiny little hard spots in the material. I don't know what those are for. They're a weird shape. I almost wonder if what we're seeing is somewhere where it's clamped at some point in the machining process. You know, those look like tool holder tooth marks, and if it compressed the metal, because there's one there, one up here somewhere, one here. So I'm almost feeling like we're seeing a spot where it got grabbed before it was machined originally. And you can see this bit of a line here where I've got an overlap. You literally cannot feel it at all. So that is plenty good. Gorgeous finish. Got to show you guys something else that's bizarre. So we're making tons of really fine iron dust. Look at this. I have got this crazy pattern forming here. I don't know what that's from. There's some bit of magnetism, I know there's been some repairs to this bed. Like, you can see a spot there, because this machine in the 80s went back to Linton Industries and got completely rebuilt. And I'm wondering if there's some, if they were Magnaflux in it or something. Anyways, I've never seen that before, but I've never made super fine iron dust on here like this, so just kind of an interesting curiosity. But anyway, long and short of it is she's done. We're going to pull it off here, air hose it off, and customer's probably going to come grab it Tuesday and they can have at it. So I don't know exactly how much we were low in the middle there, but that first pass was 5 thousandths and we made no contact anywhere in there. Running across the head up in here, I was showing about 4 thousandths worth of warp. So it was something worse than that. I mean, 5 didn't clean up. We were probably at least 6, probably 7. If I had to guess from what I saw, probably 7 thousandths would have just cleaned it up. But I took it to 10 just to make sure we had a nice, solid, clean surface all the way across. So that's what it was. From touch off over here, the edges were, the highest, so to speak. So the highest parts of it, we took 10 off. Down here in the middle, we probably took 3. So, at any rate, it is ready to roll, and we're about to get out of here. We'll go see if Wiggles' bird feeder is about done. How's it working?
Good. I've just got to get the side done here. For some reason, this nail doesn't want to go in.
Huh. All right.
Because somewhere in here, I must have put together wrong, and when the when the roof goes on, it does this.
I see.
One goes that way, one goes that way.
Well.
So I'm having to put this in here to keep it aligned.
All right. Looking good. Well, guys, we'll catch you guys all on the next video. I think we're going to get this thing busted down and get out of here for the day. So catch you later. You have a good new year.